Honestly, I just wanted to. I think a lot of times you just gotta do things and then explain it. A magazine is a conversational piece. It's a conversational piece, and what I've learned working in sales, one is how to talk to strangers. Let's say when a nightclub may be letting out, it may be 100 people in the parking lot at one time. I could go there and pass out a few hundred magazines. So to distribute thousands is just being strategic. I wanted to do print because a lot of artists leave that off the table. Everything is just digital now. But flyers, for example, you can get a box of 5,000 flyers, and that's literally 5,000 opportunities for you to connect with somebody with your art. My motto is kind of to do it as opposed to talk about it and explain it. But I figured this go round, I'll give a glimpse of what actually happens behind the scenes. Like, for example, Live in the Garden. In any project I've done over the years, it's just like a seed. So the seed is planted in the ground. Everybody just sees the surface. They don't know what happens underneath the soil. But the seed is being broken up. It's going through a process. And from that process, it breaks the soil, stretching and growing, and then it becomes something beautiful. But the process, if you think about it, is long, is detailed, and it's complex. And so building systems is complex and it takes time. And Live in the Garden didn't stop because it failed. For one, I always looked at it like a mixtape, you know, like, all right, I know that my lease was running out of the studio and I wasn't going to renew it. And so I said, all right, I want to go out with a bang. So let me call up all of my friends, get them to do in-studio videos, and I'll just put them out on the internet and market it the way I know how to do. And it just took off, you know. It was me filming in the beginning. I would chop the videos up, edit them. Then as it got rolling, I got help. So it went from just an idea of me purchasing a microphone to over 1 million views across all platforms, or really across on Facebook alone. It was about 1.3 million views, and they were basically in the Hampton Roads area, and it had impact. And so I wanted to create a timepiece and just share it with people, because it was an era. The Garden definitely had an era, and there's hundreds of artists that have their own Garden story. So, dropping the magazine, and it'll be out soon. You know, brand new social accounts, fresh website, articles rolling out. You know, we did the top 10 countdown, and that was the artist that had the top plays across the board combined. Yeah, I started looking up the artists, and what I discovered was pretty interesting. So I went on a journey of documentation of like, all right, well, this is what I discovered, and I wanted to share it with people. Once I wrote it, I'm like, you know what, this is pretty interesting, you know, and these are artists that had motion in that era. So what are they up to now? Why not do a magazine, right? I can give some to their friends and family. then it's like, hey, my uncle was in this magazine. That's cool, but it's just, how do you eat an elephant? You break it up into tiny bits and you take it one bite at a time. And so large projects have to be broken up into many steps, many systems in order for you to run at a high level, because you figure featuring over 150 artists, then there were maybe like 700 plus artists that wanted to be on the platform. I'm like, you got this many artists in Hampton Roads. This is insane. It's so many creative people here. And yeah, so the system worked. That was a project that, all right, well, over the years, I perfected my process of project rollouts. I got a little method to it. And each go round, now, I don't even know if I want to go into all of those details. It's complicated as far as putting a project out, but over the years, I've had enough practice where I know what works and I know what necessarily doesn't work, and pretty much getting down to the grassroots of things. All right, so for example, going back to flyers, I'll give you one. Get 5,000 flyers. Get 5,000 opportunities. That means you got to go out on the weekends. You don't have to go in the club. You can just pull up right before they're closing, pass out your flyers and dip. Meet 50 people out there real quick. Don't cause a scene and make it bad for the venue, but just, go in there and mingle, or go in the club, spend some money, come out, pop the trunk, flyers in the trunk, pass them out, have a good time, but promote your brand, who you are. And 5,000 opportunities, and let's say you get a 10% turnover rate. That's 500 people. What if that flyer was for a show you was doing that up and coming weekend? You distribute 5,000 flyers, right? And that's going to all of the public places pretty much that you can go to, right? 5,000 flyers, and you get 10% of those people to say yes, because you have individual conversations. You out there like, hey, I'm doing a show. What you doing Saturday? Hey, can you come? And you get 10% yeses. That's 500 people. At a $20 ticket, what is that? 10,000? You do that once a month. Now you have a budget for your music, So that's how I look at it, And I figured I needed to be vocal because, can I help artists? I absolutely can help artists, but I don't know if artists even care for the education. I think maybe they probably just want somebody to do it for them, and that's another reason why I brought the garden back, because now I can actually just show you the right direction of how to point your music. A lot of people will be like, yo, Bray, that video, that's the most views I ever got. Understandable. There was a method. I know the method, and yeah, the artists on the platform, they're going to learn the method, slide in my DM. We active, man. We've been filming. I got some dope artists that's already filmed, like halfway through a season, to be honest. And I got a few more slots. And yeah, I'm gonna just keep going. And y'all, let's see the results. If you haven't already, check legacygardenmedia.com and just scroll through. Read the articles. The stories are interesting. See the artists, follow them, find them.